Hi everyone, my name is Danny Darshan and my metric number is 310255. To kick things off, I'd like to introduce my team members who I work together on this project. These are my group members. Today we are going to talk about the roles of poverty or slow economic growth in Malaysia. Let's move on to the introduction of poverty. So, what exactly is poverty? Poverty simply means a situation where individuals or families do not have enough financial resources or essential needs to maintain a basic standard of living. It isn't only about income, but also about access to education, healthcare, and the ability to participate fully in society. Poverty also happens when social policies fail to support vulnerable communities. This issue is important because poverty affects social stability, increases inequality, and slows down the economic growth of a country. When people struggle to meet basic needs, productivity drops and the nation's development is affected. The purpose of this research is to analyze poverty in Malaysia from economic, social, and development perspective. It looks at both rural and urban areas and identifies several determinants that contribute to poverty. These include unequal distribution of development between urban and rural areas, rising cost of living, and lack of education. The research also examines poverty and economic growth in Malaysia. Among the major effects are lower labor productivity, an increase in the government's financial burden, and weaker long-term economic growth. To overcome these issues, the study highlights several government initiatives such as direct financial assistance, skills training, and employment programs that aim to increase long-term income for households. Let's discuss about the types of poverty. The research explains three main types of poverty. First, the absolute poverty. Absolute poverty refers to situation where individuals cannot meet their basic needs like food, shelter, and healthcare, and have incomes below the poverty line income. Secondly, the relative poverty. It focuses on inequality, where certain groups earn significantly less compared to others, causing social exclusion. Finally, hardcore poverty is the most extreme form, where income falls below the food poverty line and basic nutritional needs cannot be met. In conclusion, understanding the causes and types of poverty is crucial for designing effective solutions. Now, let's look at the major determinants of poverty.
A very good morning to Dr. Tarani Mariappan. Will be presenting to you the major determinants of poverty in Malaysia, such as unevenly distributed development between the urban areas and the rural areas. Second, the cost of living that rising significantly. Third is lack of education. So let's look at it. Why unevenly distributed development between the urban areas and rural areas contributes to the rising rate of poverty? So economic activities are really focused on developed cities, whereas rural cities are still struggling from basic infrastructure such as highways, utilities, and modern public transportation. Places like Kota Marudu in Sarawak. So this actually limits the economic opportunities and make it difficult to attract the investments or build industries in Sarawak. Another contributing factor is the cost of living that rising significantly. The cost of essential items such as housing, food, and transportation are increased, while the wages for many Malaysians are still be stagnant. So we can see the most visible example is the housing price. The property prices and rental rates have been strongly increased in urban areas such as Penang, Selangor, and Kuala Lumpur. For example, young families and fresh graduates may not be able to afford the 1,400 to 1,800 monthly rent for a small apartment in Klang Valley, when it's previously between the affordable rates of 1,000. This makes many people to suffer financially despite having a steady income. Last but not least, let's look at the lack of education that also reduced social mobilities and trap families in intergenerational poverty. Due to the lack of education facilities, the long distance and other culture or financial barriers limit the education access too. Parents who have never received much formal education depend upon a small-scale farming, fishing, or odd jobs for income. This can be visible in most Orang Asli's community. This cycle has continued for generations as these communities cannot get access to the high-paying job, opportunities, or industry because of lack of education.
Hello everyone, and a very good morning to our distinguished lecturer Dr. Abdul Mahibaba and my fellow classmates. Today, I'm going to talk about a critical issue that affects our nation, the statistic of poverty in Malaysia. This topic requires attention and understanding of all people. Let's start by defining what poverty means in Malaysia. Poverty in Malaysia is absolute poverty and relative poverty. Absolute poverty means household income is below the poverty line income (PLI), where currently Malaysia is 2,589 per month. This means they do not earn enough to meet basic needs for a dignified life such as food, housing, and healthcare. While relative poverty means household income is below half national median income. Malaysia has achieved a dramatic and long-term success in poverty reduction. In 1970, the absolute poverty rate was extremely high at 49.3%. This is contrast with the year 2019 because the rate was successfully dropped at the historic low of 5.6%. The long-term progress was hit by a temporary but a severe spike due to the economic shock of pandemic. However, during the 2020, the absolute poverty rate was increased to 8.4%, which is the spike. This is driven by COVID-19, where it hypermassive job losses, reducing work hours, and many people from middle income M40 falling into the below income B40.
Hi everyone, I'm going to explain briefly how poverty slows down Malaysia's economic growth. Firstly, poverty increases the government's financial burden. The government must spend more on welfare subsidies and short-term assistance. Even though these programs are important, they reduce the amount of money available for long-term development like infrastructure, innovation and technology. When more funds go to support rather than growth, the overall progress of the nation slows down. Next, poverty reduces national productivity. When many people cannot afford good education, nutritious food or proper healthcare, they become less skilled and less healthy. This weakens the workforce and makes it harder for the country to compete, especially when moving towards advanced and technology-driven industry. Poverty also has a long-term impact on income inequality. When only the rich can afford opportunities, the gap between groups widens. This reduces social mobility, creates frustration in society, and weakens trust in institutions. Over time, inequality makes it harder to build a stable, skilled, and innovative workforce. Another impact is the increase in crime risk. Low-income communities face higher chance of theft, robbery, and other illegal activities due to financial stress and limited opportunities. This creates an unsafe environment that discourages investment, disrupts business activity, and reduces community stability. Finally, poverty has a major impact on weaker health conditions. Poor households face higher rate of malnutrition, chronic illness, and untreated disease. When a large number of people are unhealthy, productivity drops, healthcare costs rise, and the economy loses valuable human capital. In summary, all of these impacts directly slow down economic growth and prevent nation from reaching its full potential. Thank you.
Now, let us look at how the Malaysian government is actively working to reduce poverty and support national economic growth. The Malaysian government has introduced a combination of short-term financial assistance and long-term human capital strategies. These initiatives aim not only to help families to survive today, but also empower them to escape poverty permanently. One of the main measures is Sumbangan Tunai Rahmah, which is known as STR, a targeted cash assistance program for the B40 group that include families, senior citizens, single mother, and people with disabilities. Actually, in 2025, 8.5 million Malaysians received STR Phase 2, which payment reaching up to 800 ringgit Malaysia per household and it totaling up to 4 billion nationwide. This support is actually critical during the period of high inflation. How? So, when the cost of food and basic necessities increase, STR ensure that families of this B40 group can maintain essential spending and avoid slipping into hardcore poverty. Beyond immediate aid, the government also focuses heavily on long-term income development, which is very essential for breaking the cycle of poverty. Technical and vocational education and training (TVET) is one of the strongest initiatives. In 2024, Malaysia has recorded over 400,000 TVET enrollment, and the employability rate in 2023 reached 94.5%. This actually shows that TVET successfully create pathway for P40 youth to secure stable, high-paying job in engineering, digital technology, hospitality, and manufacturing sector. On the other hand, Perkeso support those who lost their job, especially during and after the pandemic. Through job matching, counseling, reskilling, and nationwide recruitment program, Perkeso actually help individuals transition into new careers and regain financial stability. This initiative reduce dependency on cash aid and build more competitive and highly skilled workforce for the nation. Overall, the government combats poverty through a strategic mix of direct support and long-term empowerment. This approach is actually crucial because reducing poverty not only improves living standard, but actually strengthen Malaysia's economic resilience and future growth.
In conclusion, poverty continues to challenge Malaysia's goal of achieving equal and sustainable growth. Despite major progress in reducing poverty, issues like unequal distribution of development, rising living costs, and limited access to quality education still hinder social mobility and productivity, while government efforts such as financial aid, skill trainings, and employment support have helped. But Malaysia still needs a stronger policy and stronger strategies, especially in rural places like Sabah, Sarawak, to ensure lasting progress, holistic solutions that expand education, job opportunity, rural infrastructure, so that every Malaysian can share the nation growth and prosperity. Thank you.